Hello, good friends, teachers, and young scholars. This is Roque Teixeira, and today I'm going to be presenting on Grim Tales to Teach Young Adults. I'm going to be covering The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman and Night by Elie Weisel, and why The Graveyard Book is such a good preface for Night by Elie Weisel. For starters, why do they join so well? They're good for junior high kids. I'd read these books whenever I was in junior high myself, from 12 to 14. They both deal with similar green themes, which is a good introduction for youth. I feel like junior high is a perfect time to do that because in elementary they might be too young, and then in high school, well, they should probably have some kind of understanding of how that works. Their characterization and world building is similar. Graveyard Book, Gaiman was very purposeful with his world building and characterization, and I think it's very similar to the way that things in Night play out. Obviously, Night's events are real, but they kind of coincide as to how that works. How does that work exactly? Well, they both involve a lonely protagonist that persevere through hard times, and they could kind of teach this like persevering through hardships and persevering, right? Like such as loss of family, gathering a sense of belonging. Both are young men coursing through life in a very peculiar manner. Obviously, because Bod is being raised in a cemetery, and Elie Weisel spends a good part of his young man life and in a concentration camp. Um, but what is it? They both depict the crude reality of life, death, evil people, evil institutions. I'm going to get more into that in a little bit. They both promote ingenuity for peril. And what I mean by that is that they come up with creative ways to kind of get around and survive. It's pretty cool. Graveyard Book is a gothic fantasy, which is a good way to ease into Night. Night deals with the heavy subject matter of the Holocaust, which again is important for kids to know, but it might be easier to like lead into it with a book like Graveyard Book. So the Graveyard Book, fiction, gothic fantasy that was published in October 6, 2009. Nobody Bob Jones is the main character. He's an orphan who crawls to a graveyard in the dead of night once his parents are mysteriously murdered by someone. He is raised by the cemetery spirits, whom only he can see. Other humans that are around him can't see it. Not even the main antagonist. What is it? His teacher Silas is alleged to be a vampire. It's never explicit, although there is a scene where you can't see his reflection. It's alleged that, and also that he explains about how he used to be a bad person, probably when he first began to be a vampire. It's really cool stuff. Bod does a vast exploration, and growing up in the cemetery, he grows up on his own. He doesn't really have a lot of friends, and so he kind of as the book goes out, he comes up with creative ways to like sell a brooch for like a friend, for like a ghost friend of his, so that she can have a gravestone because she didn't have a gravestone, kind of thing. The malevolent evil forces that he fights against are both in spiritual, like there's ghosts that he has to like kind of be against and stuff, and then there's also like the main antagonist, which is an actual person, and that leads up to him confronting that person. It's the man Jack, the main antagonist of the novel. So how does that help lead into Night by Elie Weisel? Well, Night by Elie Weisel is a memoir novel on the real account of a Holocaust survivor. The Holocaust, I found myself having a difficult time adjusting with learning this kind of material because it can depict pretty inhumane stuff, I guess you could say, because it is one of the world's largest tragedies. So I think Graveyard Book touches on the same subjects: death, evil people, evil institutions, and it can kind of lead into this in a better way because it's a fiction. Kids like fiction more, stuff like that. But back on Night, it's a Nobel Prize winner. It was published in 1960. Weisel was a young boy when this all happened. Him and his family were captured by the Nazi Party under false impressions and taken to Auschwitz. And well, he loses his family gradually throughout the novel. His parents, and it depicts the harsh reality of death and evil people and evil institutions. It's a great example as to obviously showing a real account of a world tragedy, but it's also good to teach children about politics. Junior high is probably a pivotal moment to teach children about how politics works. There's certain governments in the world that are trying to control people, and this is a good way to do that. Obviously, with leading into it with a graveyard book or a spooky book of similar manner with death and stuff like that. The main skills to be garnered from this pair would be larger theme interpretation. Again, it goes back to the evil people, evil institutions, stuff like that, death, the harsh reality of life. understanding the purpose of world building. Graveyard Book, Neil Gaiman was super purposeful because his world building and characterization as well set up Bod to be this like helpless little boy that gets raised into a creative young man that can kind of know his way around and is very clever, stuff like that. And in a similar way, I mean, obviously the events of Night are real, but that similar creativeness of just trying to get around, maybe surviving, is kind of present there. They both have hidden meanings, symbols, and foreshadowing, which are great things to do. I think that Graveyard Book would be a great book club book where the kiddos could talk around and talk about their favorite characters and stuff like that. Night by Elie Weisel, I think, is more of a book that wants to be closely studied. You'll have the kids reading from home, but you'll also have close lessons where you'll look at certain passages, just like Penny Kiddo and Kelly Gallagher from 180 Days talked about. What is it? And again, easing them into it. It's kind of that lapse lesson that they talked about, kind of like gradually going through it, right? But back to the skills, individual growth and establishing individualism. Both of them become grow as young men throughout the novel, and obviously, this is a great example of how fiction can interconnect its themes into nonfiction. Obviously, since fiction to nonfiction, right? There's a lot of examples of hyperbole, personification, and lots of other figurative language that can be closely looked at in these two novels. This is all based off of personal experience. Some sample passages. I'm just going to read a couple of lines. You know the rules about leaving the graveyard. Just asking for trouble it was. Bod felt very insignificant and very foolish. I wanted to get you a headstone, he admitted in a small voice, and I thought it would cost more money, so I was going to sell the brooch to buy you one. Isn't that like crazy? This is from that thing I told you about earlier, how his ghost friend Liza, he was trying to buy her a headstone by selling a brooch. Not every boy would just know that, you know what I mean? So he's like clever, stuff like that. And then diving into Night by Elie Weisel. And he himself was so thin, so withered, and so weak. The only thing that keeps me alive, he kept saying, is to know that Razel and the little ones are still alive. Were it not for them, I would give up. So again, it's depicting a very tragic set of events. But it's a good way of teaching a real world event. And the Graveyard Book that deals with the similar nature and grim themes can lead very well into the realism of Night by Elie Weisel. All right, I think that concludes my presentation. Here, let me go ahead and show you my. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Those are my works cited right there. I really appreciate y'all taking the time to come out today and listen to me. I hope that I convinced you to maybe teach the book, to buy it, or to teach the books, or to buy them. I'm sorry. Thank you for your time. Y'all have a great day.